Sadaf. She is our host here. She's responsible for getting us the space at Google, so she's going to take it from here.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. It's so lovely to see all of you and have you all together. So welcome to Google. It's a great honor to host Persian Women in Tech's first year lunch anniversary at Google. Aside from my day job as acting as administrative business partner to 3 directors in the go-to-market function, I'm also heavily active in organizing events for the Iranian Googlers network. Through my involvement, I was introduced to Layla Mansouri, who aside from her amazing work in law, has started the London chapter of Persian Women in Tech and has organized some great events in London, including this one. Persian Women in Tech is a non-profit organization dedicated to celebrating and empowering Persian, Middle Eastern, and North African women in STEM fields from around the world who are engineers, technologists, founders, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, and investors. After hearing about the amazing work that PWIT does, I was keen for Google to host an event. At Google, we have different employee resource groups, such as Women Act, which is a global network committed to empowering all women at Google by connecting, developing, and retaining female talent. There are many Googlers in the group who have joined us this evening to hear from our inspirational speakers. I can't wait to hear from our great speakers. Thank you all for making the time to join us this evening.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? Good. Awesome. First and foremost, we want to thank Google. They've been such a great partner for us. Really appreciate it. And Nicole, and of course also the team, because without the team, we couldn't do this. It's our 1-year anniversary in London, and I look around how incredible the community has become and flourished. So thank you so much for being part of it, contributing, whether you have been sponsors, whether you have been speakers, or contributors through being a community partner. So I want to give a set of applause just to yourself. So thank you so much. My name is Sepideh. Before I talk about Persian Women in Tech, and Nicole read off exactly who we are and what we do, show of hands, how many of you have been to a Persian Women in Tech event? Awesome. So a lot of, how many have not been? Welcome. And I hope you tell your friends. Who is a technologist here? Great. Founder, entrepreneur? Thank you. Investor. You know who to talk to if you need money. Didn't want to call you out. Last but not least, who are the ones who are looking for a job today? And hi. Come on, if you want a job today. Okay, great. And who's hiring? Please take the time when you're doing your network to talk to everyone. So Persian Women in Tech started about 3.5 years ago, and the mission around it was to elevate the profile of Iranian women in tech at first. And the reason for that is because 3.5 years ago, I could not pinpoint one Iranian engineer, Mogees, to a friend of mine who was interested in diversifying her engineering team, and she was Iranian, she wanted to support a diverse women. And that was very interesting to me in Silicon Valley, because everyone tells you, or parents tell you, become a doctor, lawyer, or a Mogees, so we were the Mogees. I couldn't find one. Obviously, there were founders who I knew, who most people know in Silicon Valley, but they were men, so there weren't a lot of women. And that has been the theme, actually, if you think about it, throughout when we talk about technology, when we talk about startups and the ecosystem. So we are here to now talk about diversity and inclusion, where Persian Women in Tech comes in. I hope that we are able to not only support our community, but build a sense of belonging. So you're not here today just to take. I hope you know that you're here to take, to give back to your community. Every single one of you has either a network they can share, a company who's hiring and a support system you can provide to someone who needs it. And that's really the DNA of Persian Women in Tech, is really to give a sense of belonging to the entire community. Now, we have been now in these 3 years, 3.5 years, in 10 cities around the world. And London was our first international city. And Layla has been a tremendous force behind building this incredible community. And as you can see, it's through community members is how we can become a strong community. So I first want to give her a set of applause. Thank you so much. And mind you, she moved here not knowing anyone. So there's no words. Thank you. And it takes a lot of people to do that, because if you're not doing it, who's going to support the community? If you're not starting that, and it starts with you. I started this company, but it's not just me. It's every single person, like Layla, like Mahtab, like Shirin, and Nona now, who are going to contribute and make sure that we are stronger. I want to actually ask the team to come up and introduce every single one of them, because it's important to recognize the work that they have been doing.
Hi everyone, I'm Nona. I'm a technology and data security lawyer at Reed Smith, which is an international law firm. I'm the newest member of PWIT, and I'm really delighted to be part of it, because it really embodies who I am and what I represent. Hi everyone, I'm Mahtab. I'm a technologist and a part-time musician. I will be speaking a bit later about that this evening. I've been with PWIT since we started the chapter in London, and it's been great to see the growth. So yeah, thank you, Layla, again.
Okay, blushing. I'm Layla Mazraei, the London lead for Persian Women in Tech. I'm also a lawyer, but I really enjoy community organizing and community building. And as Sepideh said, when I moved here last year, I wanted to do what I was doing in Washington, D.C., which was connecting the community, the Iranian diaspora. And I've loved to see this. It's growing. It's been incredible. And just a few, thank you all for coming, and a few really special guests we have. We have Sina Valiola here. We have Dr. Samina Shahib here, who's the Dean of Hall Business School. We've got people from Manoto here, Iran International, Iran Wire. We have so many people supporting us and trying to raise awareness about our organization. And that's the key to growing, by sharing with your networks. So please don't forget to tag us tonight in all of your social media posts, Persian Women in Tech. And we've got all of the platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and thank you to our past sponsors. We've had 5 incredible locations for all of our events. This is our 5th event in London. We've been, so please, email us, get in touch, and I'll pass it over to Sepideh to carry on. Sure.
One person that's still at work is Shirin. Shirin Hakim is also one of our members, and she's working hard to make sure that actually our live stream is going well. Thank you so much, Shirin. What Layla mentioned is that having partners like Google and other companies supporting us, that's how we can do this. So if you work for a company, and I know many of you do, please bring us to your company and host us there. And that's the way we can continue having the support system, and also bringing our community into those companies, whether that's through hiring, engaging, partnerships, and so forth. So it depends on you as well as on the company to make sure that we continue to grow the community. So tonight we are going to honor 10 women. Out of the 10 women, unfortunately, 2 could not make it tonight, but 8 of them are going to talk a little bit about their journey and who they have become today. Each have 5 minutes to do that. So there's a clock somewhere right there, and the mic will go off. But they have been trailblazers in their industry. And so that's the real mission of ours, is elevating their profiles today. We hope that when we are providing each of these women a platform where they can tell their story, not only they're shining here, but other platforms will open up for them and they can shine there as well. So thank you so much for being here tonight. We will start with our first presenter. Actually, I'm so sorry. We're starting with a video first.
The Persian women tech movement is so aligned with what's happening in society and the whole talk around diversity and embracing all cultures, and especially in the tech sector, it's been proven over and over again that the diversity and the presence of different cultures and identities, and specifically immigrants, has been so crucial.
This Persian women in tech movement is very important to me. As a young female that's Iranian, I really, really see that as a way of telling stories.
In 2015, I was advising an early stage startup, an Iranian woman who was looking to hire an engineer, woman who's Iranian as well, to diversify her engineering team. And that's the first time I realized that I am not as connected to my own community, the Iranian community.
First of all, the Persian women, they need more confidence, because in the society that is more male dominated, it's very hard for them.
For me in particular, I'm a consumer investor, and consumers come in all shapes and sizes, and so it's great to see more women, and particularly more Persian women in this space where it's been historically underrepresented.
Persian women in tech movement is very important to me because the way that I see it is there are 2 aspects to this. There's Persians in tech as well as women in tech.
Persian women in tech movement has been incredibly powerful since its launch. It's initiated and ignited and activated so many women. We have 9 chapters across the globe's landscape, and there's a lot of really wonderful volunteer activity and a lot of just connectivity. And that's the most important thing, is that when you bring people together in the same space, incredible things happen. Just keep at it. We need more of you.
It's important to have a supportive tech ecosystem, specifically within the minority segment to spread and multiply.
It's really important to have role models within the industry, and each and every person that stands for and works with and is part of Persian Women in Tech is allowing more females to get into the space. In order to build a more supportive tech ecosystem and environment, you really have to try to pull people up.
Stand up and show up. I think that's the first step that each person can take in this movement on supporting each other. Because if we are not supporting each other, how can we expect others to support us or our community? So we'll start with our first presentation, and we have Anna.
Well, can I have an excuse? I cannot see the board, so if I go beyond my time, that's fine, right? Hello, everyone. Alright, okay. My name is Anna Chabokdast, and I'm very glad to be here tonight, and I would like to share my experience with you. Before I start, can you show hand that how many of you have been in academia, work in academia, or have worked in academia at some point? Okay, so those of you that have worked in academia might relate to my story a bit more. So I was born in Tehran, went to school in Tehran, and was graduated from American University of Technology. and some of you might know it as Polytechnic of Tehran, and then moved to the UK to do my master's and PhD with my husband. I did my master's and PhD in medical engineering. Here I am, graduating a lot for some reason. So it was in medical engineering and then in biomechanics, and 2.5 years into the PhD, thank you. Into the PhD, I received an offer from University of Oxford. That made me really write my thesis like maniacs. And then when I submitted my thesis, it was 2 weeks short of 3 years. So here is the first point that I want to share with you tonight. If you have got the opportunity to have a pause between different stages of your job after your studies, take that chance and celebrate your achievement, the past chapter of your life and the start of the new one. Anyways, I started as a postdoc at the University of Oxford. I was studying the flight of insects. You have got the video there. We were the first group that had managed to CT scan a flight whilst it was flying. And I know flies are noisy and annoying, but from a biomechanical point of view, they are the wonders of their nature. They're agile, they can maneuver very fast. And when we would go to conferences and present, and normally reaction of audience would have been yes with the coolness of the project. That does look cool, doesn't it? Except the nature of the job was not cool at all. So it was twofold what I was doing. It was researching part of it, which was me sitting at a corner at my desk trying to figure out how a fly flies with computational and mathematical models. And then it was the second part of the job, which was taking the data. It was a few weeks every year in a remote location in Switzerland, working out 24 hours in shifts, sleeping 4 hours, and with a success rate of 1%, because 99 out of 100 flies decided not to fly. So I decided to move away from academia, over here. When I decided to do that, a little noise at the back of my head was constantly telling me that moving away from academia was a failure. I was working in one of the best universities, and yet I was not happy. So I found a job that I now work in Field 3D. It's a startup company that works with 3D scanning, image processing and machine learning, and I use machine learning currently to detect the cancer cells. I only have 1 minute and I really need to rush through it now. Anyways, so I'm using machine learning, and machine learning has been used for diagnosis in many cases now. You see that it has been used for the diagnosis of cancer cells in so many different organs. You'll get all of that. So later on, if you're interested, go and have a look at that. And here is how in the 100 years probably technology is going to change everything. So the words that you see the highest is patient empowerment, genomics, and the technology is allowing us to find the patterns, and then AI and machine learning is helping us to interpret those patterns. And the last thing that I would like to share with you is a challenge that I had as a female during my profession. This is not only really related to females, both males and females are affected by it, but I think it is high percentage for females. So when I got the postdoc in Oxford, I really felt that I didn't belong there. I felt, these are just super small humans. How can I fit here? I don't fit here. There were no on the frog one of those days. Well, through one of the events like PWIT, I heard about imposter syndrome. So that's why I think it is important to share it with you as well. And that's why PWIT is very important, because it provides the chance for us to share our experiences together. After that I know what it is, I can now really control that little noise at the back of my head that is telling me that I'm a fraud. So I guess I've got 3 points for you. First, celebrate your achievements. Second, don't be afraid of the change. Somehow it's going to work. And third, you deserve the place that you're in. So do not doubt yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So up next, we have Dr. Sepideh Chakaveh.
Is me? Yeah. Waiting for my presentation, Sepideh. Please. My clock. Yeah. Hi. I'm Sepideh. I would like to. I think we can start with the second one. Sorry. Oh, this one. Yeah. Yeah. My background is I was born also in Tehran. But this is a couple of my pictures. I went to the Payvan school, the primary school. Then I went to Maryam High School. I moved to the UK in mid-1970s. I did my first degree in electronic engineering, and then I did my PhD in experimental astrophysics. I worked with the Giotto mission, which went to Halley's Comet. And that was sort of like an interesting experience. Then from 1990 to 2007, I moved to and worked in Germany, and I returned back in 2007 back to the UK. So I work in two different fields, one as an astrophysicist, the other one as a technologist. I was at Imperial College, then I was at Rutherford Lab, Max Planck Institute in Heidelberg, University of Göttingen. That was where I worked as an astrophysicist. Then, as a technologist, I worked at the Fraunhofer Institute, where I invented MP3, and University of Hertfordshire. I moved back to the UK. I was a senior lecturer in digital technology and biometrics. And then I was at University of Southampton, which Tim Berners-Lee is the inventor of the web, was there, and that was what I worked was, I set up the first data science academy, online data science academy. Now I'm at the University of Oxford. So you might be wondering, what is the relationship between astrophysics and technology? From my perspective, it is the data science. So what I have been doing, guys, is I have been using all the experience that I have had over the last 25 years working in this field to create my own technology, which is called Pixsellar. And this Pixsellar technology is the first ever video analytics for the big data. I'm actually taking the opportunity here to launch my app, which is going to be one of the free apps. It is going to be used for anything you go on the web. You can register with us. Hopefully you become a Pixsellar disciple. And by doing that, whenever you go to any website, you can watch any video in any language you want. So that is going to be a free app. And I'm actually going to release that for bringing the cultures together for things like the sort of like detecting fake news. So please check my website. Sorry, there's no gmail.com, it's pixellar.com. Okay, so what are the emerging technologies? I think probably I was very lucky to work with a lot of people who were the pioneers of this technology from the beginning. So the next 50 years is going to be the human being is going to be at the center of data science, Internet of Everything, and devices. So it's going to be an ecosystem, but these are all intertwined. And the devices and the networks are going to be actually rotating around the human being. So this is the future of this technology. And if you want to know more about it, you can come to my courses at Oxford University. Well, actually, I mean, not everybody has got this symptom, syndrome at Oxford. Some are really genuine. So what are the challenges I faced? Many. Well, actually, I have got the challenges I faced was twofold. One, it was because I'm an Iranian and we have got these collective challenges we face. One of them was that it was actually being an Iranian woman living in Europe in the 80s. That was a huge challenge. That was what I regard as a collective challenge. And the other thing is that being one of the very few women studying electronic engineering amongst many men. That was actually an individual challenge. Then certainly being the first Iranian woman astrophysicist, that was a huge challenge, I can tell you that. But I think we have got also, as a nation, a collective challenge. We are a very humble and we have a very high integrity. And it's been throughout our history, we've always been actually robbed of a lot of our work. And a lot of our neighbors have been taking on that. But you see, I think as the English say, anything which can't kill you, make you stronger, so plow on.
So I followed the prompt of sending a hopefully funny baby picture. So we'll kick off with that. You'll all be happy to know I don't leave the house looking like that anymore. I'm Layla Yarjani. I am the COO of Littlebridge, a children's education company, which I'll tell you about shortly. I was born in Los Angeles, and when I was 5, we moved to Tehran. That's my brother, who's also an entrepreneur and my closest friend in the world. And we lived in Iran until I was 9, and then back to Los Angeles and then to Texas, and we've moved a lot. I've lived in 8 different cities, and throughout the journey, I have had many challenges, which I will tell you a bit about at the end. I went to university in Texas, and one of the common themes across my story is I was exposed to children who had had extreme trauma at a very young age. So our house in Iran in Bennett was across the street from a John Bazan, which was filled with young boys who had been handicapped during the war. And my brother and I kind of grew up going across the street, seeing these young teenage boys with arms and legs missing and learning about their stories. And so we both grew up with kind of philanthropy being a big part of our day-to-day, and which is why we both now do what we do. I, after graduating from UT Austin, moved to New York City. I worked in management consulting for 5.5 years, then moved to London. And in London, found myself doing a number of projects with UNICEF. One of these projects I was doing pro bono took me to the Syrian and Lebanese border. There, we were designing an education program. I was there not because I'm an educationalist, but because I'm a facilitator and consultant, and I was there to enable this workshop to happen. And while I was there, all of the lights came on. Something my parents had said to me since I was a kid was the only thing that cannot be taken away from you is your education. And that was something that I always knew, but I didn't get until that moment when I was in Lebanon. And so I came back from Lebanon and went to my partner and consulting firm I was working for and said, hey, I'm probably leaving and I'm probably gonna go work in education. And that is how I ended up at Littlebridge, which is the children's education company where I am the COO, which if you're at a startup means everything and nothing. I work directly for the founders, who are 2 incredible educationalists. They've both been in the sector for 40 years each. And what we do is we teach children English, the language of the internet, and clearly, and as we can all probably speak for, considering we're here in the UK, the key to many, many doors. And we teach them by immersing them in this social community. And they learn by communicating with each other and by being immersed in characters of children from all over the world. We have delivered the product in 10,000 schools to 2.5 million children, and we have tons of data and research that our methodology works, and it's extraordinary, and it's a privilege to work there. I'm gonna kind of not run through all of these. You can see them, they're up here, but the biggest and what I think is the most important impact of technology on education is that it gives us access to data that can help us understand whether what we are teaching and the methodologies for teaching it are effective. So traditional learning doesn't work for everyone, and with technology now, we are able to actually use data to understand whether this particular methodology is working for that child. The other main point about technology and education for me personally, I wrote all of these, but I'm just gonna highlight a couple of them, is that it makes technology makes education accessible. So before, the elite got access to English, but now with technology, the whole world can access the English language. Just one example. I'm gonna flip through to the next one. If you want to talk about these, you can grab me after. And then education in the next 50 years. So again, a few points that I think are really important. Today, teachers are there to dictate information to students. I believe that in the future, teachers will be mentors. They'll be there to support children, to create a culture of fun and a place where kids can feel confident to learn instead of feeling fearful. I think the role of the school will transform. I think schools will be places where kids will come, they'll work together, it'll be a place to have fun and socialize, a place to go and basically have daycare, which is unfortunately what teachers have kind of been turned into a bit. And I think there's going to be a shift in where innovation is. So currently in education, we're seeing a lot of learning management systems and innovation on standards and testing, or making it easier for kids to study for the SAT, or making it easier for teachers to grade papers. And actually where the innovation is needed is in the learning methodologies themselves. And hopefully, and my bet is that we'll see more of that. Last thing on being a woman, believing that I'm enough and learning to trust and love myself. So we're kicking off fundraising now, and we've been meeting with investors, and something that keeps coming up for me is doubting myself when I get asked questions I don't have answers to, and when there are moments where I feel out of my depth. So I think that's something that we all come up against in many different parts of our lives, whether it's family or love or work. And for me personally, the way I've been able to do the things I do and to kind of stay committed to what I'm up to is by mastering myself. So I do a lot of work in developing my person and working through some of these things I think a lot of women struggle with. People get up here and they speak, but you don't see the process psychologically that women go through to get up here. And I was at a conference this weekend, and tons of different kind of very high profile people speaking, and Naomi Campbell got up on stage to give a talk, and a room full of very impressive entrepreneurs and people doing social impact work. And in the middle of her speech, she just took a deep breath and said, "I'm nervous." And for me, that was probably the most important thing that she did in her entire speech. Because if Naomi Campbell gets up on stage and gets nervous, you can bet the rest of us women do too. And I guess what I have to say to the community is lean on each other. We're all struggling in our own ways. The human experience is a tough one, and I'm here for everyone. And it's a privilege to speak to you guys. That's it. Thanks.
Hi everyone. Thank you again for being here tonight. My name is Mahtab. I'm also a technologist, as I mentioned earlier. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Iran until the age of 15, and after that we moved to Canada. The reason I have these three pictures are because I think my personality comes from three very distinct components. Well, one is family, being a kid, being surrounded by people who love you. Second one is Canada, and that's a picture I took from Mazraei, near about an hour from Montreal. And the third one is I grew up in a musical family. We had my parents were amateur musicians. We had a community that was very involved with music, and I think that formed a big part of what I'm going to talk about next. When I was I started studying engineering in the University of Waterloo in Canada. And the year before I graduated, I discovered this book, This Is Your Brain on Music. And it sparked an interest because up until then I was studying design and engineering. And I never really thought about neuroscience as being a thing that could be blended into technology. And also I never thought about music as being something that could be blended into neuroscience and then technology. So that's what I've been doing since 2009, 2010. I've been working at various different companies that blend arts, music, creativity, neuroscience, and technology. And the latest one is the company that I'm working with right now. We build hardware that allow people to play the world. That's our slogan. And the idea is that if you have AI and sensor technology, you can embed this anywhere, and you can find out a lot about what people and how they interact with the world through machine learning. And then you can use this information and play music or do lots of other things. So we do a lot of installations. For example, this one. This was at Slalom in Milan. It was an installation commissioned by Audi, and we have 15 sensors that are embedded underneath the walkways, the paths that you see. And what happens is when people walk on these, given their footsteps and the speed, you get different notes. So the way, obviously, like the system has been trained on previous footsteps and data, but then you see the effect. It creates something very beautiful. So in my field, there are two things that are really shaping the current state of the art as well as the future. Well, one is AI, of course. This was an installation at Walt Disney Hall in LA, and this was commissioned by an artist, Turkish artist named Rafik Arando, and my colleague Parag. It's about an hour long. The entire music is built using AI, using about 11 years of footage and archives from the LA Philharmonic's music. And the images are all made by deep learning. So this is what's happening right now, and it's happening all over the world. What I think is going to continue to happen is that technology is going to become more integrated and more immersive. So there are multiple ways in which people are creating music right now. There are sensors, there are electronic instruments, there are the whole DJ culture, the internet, of course, SoundCloud. But I think what we're going to see a shift in the future towards more live performances that are very, very different than what we're used to. And another thing that's going to change, and it's already starting, is not so much on the creation, but on the business side of music. We know that a lot of creatives, not just musicians, creatives, artists, designers, have been affected by technology in not so pleasant ways. They're not getting paid. Their work is being stolen from them. And one of the initiatives that's recently formed in solving this problem is using blockchain to track down who made what, when, where did they make it, and can they get paid appropriately. I think I didn't want to really talk about a challenge as a woman, but more of a challenge as a person who moves to a new place. And I think we can all share that when you move somewhere new, especially when you move from a smaller community into a place like London or LA or San Francisco, all of a sudden you find yourself surrounded by all of these amazing people, and that person that, mom and dad and all of your cousins, and everyone's like, oh, you're so smart, you're so pretty, you're so amazing. And all of a sudden you find yourself among all of these, Oxford graduates and amazing entrepreneurs and investors. And you're like, oh my God, I'm just ordinary. How did my parents not know this? Were they lying to me the whole time? And I think it's just, I've been reading about this, and I think it's perfectly fine to be ordinary, as long as we're doing something interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahtab. Next up, we have Mazraei.
Why am I not getting a clap? Hi, I'm Maryam. So I was born in London. This is me writing my first business plan at the age of 1, taking over the world. So I was born in London. My parents are both Iranian. My dad has been very influential in my upbringing, of being very independent, going after your dreams. He was definitely played a major part in this. And so I started my first company at the age of 18. It was an ethical menswear company where we were trying to bring more sustainability and ethics into clothing. I was running that company for about 4 years. learned a lot from it, but unfortunately it did not work out. So fast forward to today, I got really interested in failure and why companies fail, and what are the top indicators and reasons for failure. So I started a website called Autopsy, where we do postmortems and analysis on companies that didn't work out. So the website was, back in 2015, it got a lot of press and publications and features in sites like Bloomberg, The Next Web, Business Insight, blah, blah. And it was because we were finally talking about something honest in the industry. We could face our failures, we talk about it easily, especially as British people, we find it extremely hard to talk about our failures, but the Americans are all very okay with that. They wear failure as a badge of honor. So fast forward to today, what we're trying to do with the analysis that we've captured so far is creating a B2B SaaS platform that helps businesses, early stage companies to mid-sized companies to track their performances better and to highlight risks at the earliest possible stages. All right, so the change in technology. Yeah, I mean, especially in software at the moment, data is gold. Data is still very key. I think with software in particular, what I'm definitely starting to see more of is looking at insights more than just data. So VCs, for example, and a lot of which I've spoken to, who find the indicators of failure and success are obviously very important, interesting. What they want is not just data. They don't want to just be given millions of data sets and here's some little indicators. But what they really want to see is insights. So what I mean by insights is answers to specific questions. So by training a model, by looking at constant examples, we should be able to gain more insights out of the data that we give to our customers. And I think that's particularly where software is trying to get to. I don't know about a robot playing piano, but whatever. 50 years from now, I think, yeah, like Mahtab said before, I think it's going to be super immersive. It's already part of our day-to-day. Some things about it freak me out. Like I'm sure you've seen the Boston Dynamics parkour robot that is like jumping over stuff. Like that's just some weird stuff. Or like the Google AI assistant, who is talking very easily to another human. That is definitely going to be part of our day-to-day, especially for people that are extremely busy. They want to automate that part of their job. This is definitely going to be a part of our everyday, especially in the next 10 years. That's fine. The challenges I face, I've never had to face that challenge of climbing a bamboo tree, but this was a really hard question for me to answer, to be completely honest with you. Whether challenges, of course, in startups and entrepreneurship is obviously is there, but whether I felt those directly or indirectly as a woman, it's hard for me to measure that. Of course, when you're sitting in a room, especially in tech, you're surrounded by dudes. If you listen to that doubt in your head, you can definitely go under quite quickly. So I think it's about having that confidence and seeing them as not opposition, but as part of your team and something that you can work together with. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
And next up, we have Maryam Bennett.
Hello everyone, my name is Maryam Bennett. I'm super excited to be here. I also spoke at the very first one, so this is super special to be back after a year. So let me tell you a tiny bit. So a little bit like Maryam, really early on I knew I wanted to get into business. I was actually born in the UK, but ended up going back to Iran when I was 6. And this is like in the middle of the war, so it was just not a very happy time. And I ended up doing all of my school there. And as it happened, slightly randomly, I came across this concept of internet. So my dad was in academia. I'd seen some of the papers. We're kind of having these hushed conversations about how we were all be connected. I ended up writing an essay about this when I was 15, so like on 3rd year in high school. And I actually failed. They kind of thought, I was making stuff up. Anyway, but it really just stayed with me. And I probably was one of the very first ones in Iran to kind of figure out how to make a website. And it was really super interesting because I ended up building a bit of a slightly ugly website, selling it to some poor person, and making more money than I had made like for 6 months or something. And it kind of clicked for me that this is it, technology is going to be my career. And I ended up coming back to the UK, going to university. I did management consulting for a few years. And then I ended up building a few companies, starting with kind of a nice little one in London, and then in Manchester, I also started a kind of parallel company in Tehran. And it kind of grew from there, and eventually, I'm giving you a very summarized version, eventually coming back to the corporate world. And over the last few years, I've really been working mostly with both companies and venture funds, thinking about what is our future going to look like. So if we're thinking about companies or technologies to invest in, or people that we really need to work with, who are we going to do that with? So I actually left my previous job as an entrepreneur resident at City Ventures. I've joined these beautiful bunch of people. So I'm somewhere in there. I'm one of the 50. And this is part of the ZINC VC. I don't know if you've come across them. If not, please check them out. And basically, this is a small fund and a program where we have gathered as 50 of us, and we have a mission. And our mission is, how can we unlock opportunities for people who are stuck in cities that have been really hit hard by globalization or automation? Now, you might kind of say, what the hell does that mean? So, if you think about, ooh, that slide looks scarier than I thought. So if you think about all of these wonderful cities, especially think about the classic examples like Detroit, like north of England, cities that were really amazing, they were really, really rich, they had amazing industry, but somehow globalization happened and they went from being these wonderful cities to cities of nothing. Everybody has left. Everybody's kind of, whoever could has gone. The jobs have gone, right? And in London, it's easy to kind of forget about this, right? Because this is a beautiful place, tons of prosperity. We kind of think things are going fine. But actually, there are 150 million people just in the developed world. So I'm not even talking about emerging markets. I'm literally talking about Europe, Japan, and the US. 150 million people who are kind of stuck in these cities. Now, if we could figure this out, if we can figure out how can we bring these people back up, how can we help them take advantage of all of the amazing things that have been happening through technology and digital, that means we can be prepared for the next wave of this, which is automation. Now, you've heard from some of the speakers about AI and how interesting it is and how cool it is, and it is. But if we're not careful, it could actually really be quite dangerous for all of us. We can technically, not all of us, but at least half of us will be out of a job. So what are we going to do then? So if we're going to have these wonderful cities, we need to figure out what to do about it. And I think the time is really now. Now, on the other hand, as we're going to have a lot of automation, a lot of really interesting things happening, the other danger is that it's possible that a lot of the money, a lot of the power is going to get centralized, right? So there will be a few companies who will own everything. There will be a few people who will own the AI companies. Like have a look about, think about Facebook. They've been continuously buying all the other AI companies. Same with Google, same with Amazon, same with Salesforce. All of these big companies are really getting all of these amazing, amazing IP. So what does that mean? So not only we're going to be out of a job, it's possible that we're going to not having a very happy future. So I don't know if this is going to happen, but I kind of hope there is some parallel timeline where things will be much more decentralized. And you probably have heard about blockchain and Bitcoin and some of these hyped up words. They seem a bit hypey and people are excited and then not excited. But if you look at these kind of interesting technologies, there is potential for it to really help build a different kind of future. And there is a massive mountain to climb. So I'm not going to necessarily talk about the challenge that I have, but a challenge that is good for all of us to kind of know. So as more and more things are going to get automated, I think if we're not taking part in that journey, it is possible that a lot of the things are going to get designed. A lot of things are really going to be there in an automated way, so not even in a way that we can change later. The kind of biases will get baked in, right? So if you think today is really tough for us to get stuff done because women, men, it's going to be even worse, right? So we really need to be in these spaces to have our voice heard, to really be part of that design process, because we're customers of all of these things. So I really want to encourage you, if you're thinking about technology, don't think of it as just coding. Think about how there are many, many, many things you could do. There are tons of opportunities. And talk to me or any of the other ladies who are doing even more amazing things than me. Come and talk to us. It's really important for us to be part of this journey. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. And I'll leave you with a tiny, tiny thing about investment. So last year in 2017, only 2% of the founders who managed to raise money were women. 2%, right? So that's really small. And out of that 2%, 0.2% of that 2% is super tiny, were minorities, right? So I think it's super, super important for us to take our place, help each other out, have each other's back. And if we can, let's make things happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Roxana Mohammadian-Molina.
I'm just going to stand because I get very around when I get very nervous, so I'm just going to stand. My name is Roxana Mohammadian-Molina, and I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Bennett Network, which is a fintech company. I will tell you what it is later. But just going back to in the 1990s in Shiraz, in Iran, where I lived for a few years. I was actually born in France and moved to Iran in the mid-80s. Yes. So I was born in France and lived to Iran went to Iran in the mid-80s with my family. So essentially always had really big dreams in terms of having a big career and living in a cool city, but obviously living in the mid-80s and 90s in Iran. So that was a kind of a very ambitious dream. But I guess the lesson from here was to work hard and to basically have big dreams. So this is fast forward 20 years later in the mid-2000s, this is in London. And so by that time, I could safely say that I had achieved a lot of the dreams that I had when I was in my teens. And also even more than that, I had basically achieved things that I couldn't have dreamed back then. So I guess the tip would be to, if you have a dream, just you can dream it, you can achieve it. So my background is investment banking. I worked in Barclays, in Morgan Stanley, and now at Bennett, which is a fintech company. Essentially, what we do at Bennett is 10 years ago there was a financial crisis, which I'm sure all of you know. So on the back of that, a lot of businesses they faced many challenges, and one of those challenges was that banks stopped lending to many companies, and among those companies, banks stopped lending to property developers. So in this country, there's a big housing crisis, and one of the reasons is because the small and medium property developers they don't have access to funding. Before the crisis, small property developers would go to the bank and try to secure funding, but nowadays that doesn't really happen anymore. So the concept of peer-to-peer happened after the crisis in 2008, and so Blended World is a peer-to-peer property lending platform. So what we try to do is what is a club, is a property lending club. So we have a network of investors, of lenders who are on this platform, and then we connect them directly with the borrowers. So borrowers who want to build 10, 20 houses in Manchester, in Birmingham, across the UK, they come on this platform, and then essentially we connect them to the lenders. So it's a peer-to-peer concept. So I guess in terms of what we learned here is that there's always an opportunity. There was a crisis. It was many challenges faced, but out of everything comes an opportunity. So it's about taking the opportunities and grabbing the opportunities. In terms of where I see this industry in the next few years, this is still alternative finance, but it's becoming part of the ecosystem, and banks are really recognizing that alternative finance is becoming part of the ecosystem. So I think this is going to be part of the trend in the next few years. Is essentially the same trend that we have seen in other sectors, like like dating, like Facebook, like social media. Is a club, is a network. So in this case, it's a network that connects lenders with borrowers and trying to fund the people who don't have access to finance. In terms of the challenges that I have faced, so working in investment banking and in finance was a pretty male-dominated
industry. This is a picture of a team leader. When I was in banking, there were very few women. In fact, sometimes there were almost the only women on the trading floor. So in terms of challenges faced, I cannot say that I felt treated differently, or even in terms of pay gap, I never felt like that. However, I think that was also because very soon I learned how to negotiate very aggressively, sometimes in a very aggressive kind of environment. So in terms of the challenges, it was a challenge because often you had to really be outside your comfort zone and negotiate things that you wouldn't normally do, but it's just because you realize that if you wanted to achieve something, you have to be like this. So yes, that was in terms of the challenges. I think that basically what I took from this is that if you want something, you really have to ask for it, and you don't ask, you don't get. And this is something that is with me every day now. Like this is something that I tell to my team, like really, like no one is going to come and knock at your door and say, do you want to earn 20K for next year, do you want to get promoted? No one is going to do that. So if you want something, you really have to ask for it. Yes, that's right now. Yeah. That I'm sure many of you maybe have seen it, but I thought really was interesting, so I just wanted to show it to you. And basically, it comes to the idea that everything is difficult before everything looks difficult before it becomes easy. Poet that I really like, and have patience that all things are difficult before they become easy. Yeah.
Our last speaker is Sadaf Askari.